In November 1930, a fur trapper walked into an Inuit village on the shores of Lake Anjikuni and found every single person gone. Joe Labelle had visited this settlement many times before, and it had always been full of life and activity. On this visit, the silence was absolute. Not a single voice answered his calls. He counted roughly 25 sod houses, and every one of them was abandoned. Inside the homes, meals sat half-eaten, potatoes hung in pots over dead fire pits. The villagers' warm winter clothing still hung on hooks beside the beds. Labelle found sled dogs tied to posts, frozen where they stood, still chained. No one would leave a working sled dog behind in the Canadian winter. It meant almost certain death. He searched every structure and found no bodies, no blood, no sign of a struggle. What he did find disturbed him deeply. Every grave in the village cemetery had been opened. The bodies that had been buried there were gone, removed from the frozen ground. Labelle hiked to the nearest telegraph office, hours away, and sent a message to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. When the Mounties arrived, they confirmed what Labelle had reported. The village was empty. The story appeared in newspapers across Canada and the United States, and it spread quickly. The Halifax Herald reported that 2,000 people had vanished, though later accounts gave the number as 25 to 30. Readers were fascinated and frightened. How could an entire community simply disappear? Over the decades, the mystery grew. Writers added details that Labelle never mentioned. Some claimed a strange blue light hovered over the lake the night the people vanished. Others said the Mounties found a single, eerie stone cairn nearby with no explanation. Writers blamed UFOs, ancient curses, and even vampire attacks for the disappearance. The tale was republished in books about unexplained mysteries, and each version grew taller than the last. But when researchers went back to the original sources, the story began to fall apart. The first problem was simple geography. Lake Anjikuni is real, but it is not near any large settlement. The Inuit of this region lived in small family camps, not in permanent villages of 25 houses. A population of 2,000 would have been one of the largest settlements in the entire Canadian North at that time. No census, no fur trading record, and no church document ever listed such a village. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police kept careful records of every patrol in the territory. Those records contain no report of a mass disappearance at Lake Anjikuni in 1930 or any other year. In fact, the Mounties publicly stated that the story was a fabrication and that no such event had ever been reported to them. Journalist Dan Greenberg traced the earliest version of the story to a single newspaper article from 1930. That article in the Danville Beacon was written in a sensational style that mixed rumor with reported fact. The writer described events that no witness had ever confirmed and details that no official record supported. Over the years, magazines reprinted the story without checking any of the facts. Each retelling added new details. The blue light, the opened graves, and the frozen dogs all appeared in later versions. No single primary source contains all of the elements that are now part of the legend. Historians who study the Inuit of this region have found no oral tradition describing a lost village. The Inuit passed down detailed knowledge of famine, migration, and conflict across generations. A vanished village would not simply be forgotten. Some researchers think the story may have grown from a real but smaller event, such as a camp that moved for the winter. Inuit groups relocated regularly, following game and seasonal food sources. An empty camp was a normal part of life. A trapper arriving between moves might have found empty tents and assumed something terrible had happened.